Hi, welcome to episode 1 of our new podcast called Knit About It. I'm Cassie, and this is...
And I'm Drew.
So I wanted to take a moment to talk about what Knit About It means to me, and then I'd like Drew to talk about what Knit About It means to him. For me, Knit About It really embodies what is going on in the world and how you can use craft, not even just knitting, just craft in general, to have a little escape from the world. And this is not a just knit, forget about everything. It's shit's hard, use your craft as an escape, but still being aware of, the world and social issues and how crafting comes to play in that. So that's what Knit About It means to me. Every time that there's crisis, bad things in my personal life, I really just take to knitting and try to use that as not an escape, it's, only an escape, but it definitely helps to calm my mind and gives me that freedom to have that little bit of a niche in the world that I can keep sacred and safe and knit about it. So what's it mean to you, Drew?
Gosh, well, first I want to say I'm so excited to be doing this podcast with my BFF Cassie. And, we are always texting and just keeping in close touch and have been for years and years now, but especially during the pandemic. And, to me, Knit About It is really that sense of community. That's the thing that I'm really excited to kind of embrace and share in this podcast. I've just really been so grateful for the knitting community ever since I started knitting. But then I think for many of us in the last couple of years, it has just been like, I speak for myself, like a saving grace for sure during these super, super, super difficult times. And maybe we're emerging from it, but I don't really know. It doesn't seem like it. So anyway, it's a space to be together, a space to embrace community. And I think both an opportunity to have some hard conversations and talk about stuff that's difficult, but then also to have a safe space and celebrate and have joy too. So it's for everything. But yeah. So that's my 2 cents.
I think that's absolutely perfect. And that it is definitely embodying what I had in mind when I was thinking about what's this all about. And definitely those hard conversations will come up. I think this is a really good opportunity also to say, I have a loose mouth and I don't always keep it clean. And I am very prone to swear. And it's just, be warned. This is your warning. So Drew, what is your knitting story? How'd you start knitting?
Yeah, so I started knitting in 2009. So it's been about 13 years. I had always wanted to knit. My grandmother on my mom's side was a really big, just crafty lady in general. She was a very good cook. She did stained glass, I don't know what you call them, stained glass pictures or frames or whatever, and also a lot of crochet. I actually never learned from my grandma, but I was always really inspired by what she would create. And I was in Berkeley, California for a summer internship. And I went into a little bookstore and there was a book called The Knitting Manual, emphasis on man, and it was all manual.
Love it.
And it was all guy knits. And guy knitters were featured in the book knitting. And I bought the book and I thought to myself, when I get back home to Nashville, which is where I was living at the time, I'm going to figure out how to do this. And so I literally Googled knitting lessons Nashville, and a local yarn store called Bliss Yarns came up. And I called them and they said, sure, come in tomorrow for 30 minutes and we'll get you started. So I picked out a skein of Barocco Comfort in the ugliest powder blue, variegated, like really kind of interesting choice. And a woman named Emily taught me how to knit, just the knit stitch. Like she cast on my stitches and then she taught me how to knit, and then they sent me on my merry way, and I knit that whole, like I knit it in like an afternoon. I just sat there for many hours and kept knitting and knitting and knitting and ran out of yarn. And I went back to the store because I wanted something else to work on, and they suggested that I take a hat class. And so I did, and I started doing that, and I had a little issue with my hat, and I came in one Sunday afternoon to get some help, and there were a bunch of people around the table just all hanging out and knitting and drinking Diet Coke and eating and just like chilling together. And they invited me to stay and hang out when I came in for my little issue, and the rest was history. I met amazing friends, and that was the beginning of a journey that I never would have expected and never would have thought would have had such a huge impact on my life. So that's my little story.
I love that. I love that you still keep in contact with those people too. I do.
That. Yeah, I do. Yeah. And I have to give a little shout out to my friend Deb, who's one of my first knitting friends, and she owns Bliss Yarns now, actually. So if you're ever in the Metro Nashville area, you should check that store out because it's really great. So, but what about you, Cassie? Tell us about your fiber journey, your fiber story.
Well, mine is a little odd in that I had just moved to California. From Iowa, and my husband Sterling, he was going to night classes, and I was just new here. I didn't know anybody, and his sister was a knitter. So on his class nights, I would go over to her house, and we would, make dinner, drink wine, watch TV, and it kind of came about to, hey, maybe I should learn to knit. And my husband encouraged me to do it. And she was going to teach me, and she got busy and was never able to. So I took to YouTube. I went to Michael's craft store, bought some Karen Simply Soft in this hideous gray with pink and yellow and blue variegation. And it just shifted colors the whole way, like a marled yarn. And I knit a 2x2 rib scarf just from YouTube, learning how to do it. And my mother-in-law still has that scarf and wears it often. And she thinks it's the greatest thing I've ever made. So that's kind of how I started. And it kind of evolved into learning a new skill every time I made a project. And so I was always on YouTube, and I kind of taught myself how to knit. So I knit a little funny. We call it Cassie Nintle, because I kind of throw with my left hand, and it's a whole hot mess, but it does the job and it works. And it's how I've always knit. So, and I moved to California in 2007. So that's how long I've been knitting. And then a few years into it, I couldn't find exactly what I wanted. And that's how I took my leap into trying my hand at design. And since then I've designed 40 some accessory patterns.
So exciting. And I love,
Very
you have
exciting.
to check out Cassie's patterns if you haven't already. And I'll put a plug in for one of my favorite ones. Well, there's actually two that I really love. One is called Olima, and it's a giant, wonderful, like schlanket.
Giant.
So beautiful shawl blanket out of worsted weight yarn. And then the second one that I really like is Fashionably Late. And that one has some really fun colors in it, and is a fingering or sport weight kind of project. So you should check those out for sure.
Super soothing, easy knits. That's all I'm about.
Yeah.
So to move on from there, as we have now set our origin stories.
Yes.
Now we're years and years and years into it. And you have deemed this year, 2022, the year of cozy.
Yes.
And I am here for it. What does the year of cozy exactly mean? Like, what are your thoughts and feelings and items and and all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, thank you for asking. And I just will say at the top, it's not too late to embrace the year of cozy. So if this is an idea that resonates with you, like you could start in July. But I think it really emerged from feeling like just having the weight of almost 2 years of being trying to like live this new normal, which has been super turbulent for everybody. It's been super turbulent for me, just in terms of, gosh, I don't even know where to start. Like moving to a new area and changing jobs and working from home now 100% of the time, and just just feeling the heaviness of everything that's going on in the world too, the outside world, wars and stuff going on with women's rights and gay rights and just politics and all of that, as we all have experienced. So Year of Cozy really is about embracing the things that make you happy, which sounds like a simple concept, and also embracing things that give you comfort, and like the little things that give you comfort, whether that be like a candle, which for me, that was one of the ways that I like started to live into Year of Cozy, is I got really into scented candles, and because that's something that brings me a lot of comfort. I've been doing a lot of sweater knitting because that's also something that brings me a feeling of cozy, or making something that will eventually be cozy. And I think the last thing that I feel like is like one of the principles around this idea for me is letting go of the things that are not bringing you joy. So whether that be knitting projects that are stalled out and you're like, oh, I don't want to knit this stupid sweater anymore, I'm going to knit something else. Or in a more serious sense, like letting go of bad energy that is like weighing your heart and your mind down. I think it's just really about kind of returning to the things that bring you comfort. So that's how I would say it. But how is it showing up in your life? How do you think about
it? I took a page right out of your book. As soon as you mentioned it, I was like, yes, this is exactly what we need. Like and to be selfish about it in a way. I wasn't really caring what the world thought anymore. And I was like, it kind of came hand in hand. And I know that's not what it initially was about, but that's what it helped me to realize, is that my cozy feelings are protecting my peace. And that's part of that for me. I've also made rituals out of everyday tasks. Like when I make my coffee in the morning, it has become a ritual. It's no longer like pushing a button and, like I'm doing my French press and laying out my mugs just so, and I make it this little ritual, and I take the time every day to light a candle, and I totally think of you every time I do it. And like this candle I got from you.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's definitely what it's meant to me, and being able to embrace your cozy in such a way of, my knitting is cozy, my candles are cozy, my home is cozy, and like I said, making rituals out of things. I go around and I like fuss with little things around my house, and that has kind of meant cozy to me in a way, because everything's like, it feels like a cozy home. And I'm just able to turn off some of the world. And like during the Ukraine war, when that first started with Russia, you can only take so much of that news cycle, and it's so disheartening, and it's so hard to watch, to where you have to shut it off after a while. It's like, it's not that I don't care, and it's not that I, anything else. It's that like I'm kind of an empath in a way, and I can only take so much of that. And so, shut it off, light your candles, make a cup of tea, grab your knitting. And I mean, that's definitely what Knit About it's about. But I've definitely made this year the year of sweaters. That's my year of cozy, is the year of sweaters. I'm definitely an accessory knitter, and I've never felt like worthy of knitting myself a sweater, because it's a big body thing. It's more yarn, more time, more this, more that, design deadlines. And so I just quit designing this year, just kind of hiatus, done. You just at some point feel like you're screaming into the void. You get some patterns, they flop, nobody's really excited about knitting, and it's hard to get people excited about knitting. So I've taken this time to just selfishly knit for me, and that this year has meant sweaters. And I have you to thank for that.
Yay.
We started a little knit along on the Glenmore sweater from Ysolda, and Drew still has to finish his.
Right over here. I might show it actually when the time
comes.
I'm
going to show mine because this was my very first sweater make of this year, and it is the coziest, warmest hug of a sweater, and it just changed my view on knitting again, because I had been designing for so long and not making anybody else's patterns. And so it felt like a selfish self-care thing to sit down and make a sweater. And then it just snowballed into, I'm only making sweaters right now. So it's the year of sweaters.
That's so exciting. Oh, I have to show mine really quick. Hold on.
Show it. Let me see.
Okay. Hold, please.
Holding.
Okay. Still on the needles, of course.
But so close to done.
I know, it's really bad. I have a problem with sweaters in the, I don't know what like 11th hour or whatever you call it.
That's all right. It's because something else has excited you more and you've moved on from it.
Yes, that is true. Although I do want to finish this because it's very, very, it's very cozy, and it actually was like part of my initial year of cozy thing too, honestly.
You started making it and I jumped right in with you. I was like, yes, that is the sweater pattern. I have to make it.
The sweater is really good. Like, so we both made it out of Cyrano, which is from Rerum Natura, which is mouthful, but like Google it, Cyrano yarn. And the yarn is really delightful. It's like a really bouncy, soft Aran, and the pattern's oversized, and it's got the drop shoulder thing going on. So it feels like, I mean, I haven't finished mine yet, but I have tried it on. It's like the knitting equivalent of like your comfy sweatshirt. So
it's very sweatshirty for sure.
Yeah.
And I just love the oversized fit of it. And it is actually one of the projects that got me excited about knitting again, and really into additional knit math that I will discuss later. But I definitely have a new equation for ease for sweaters for bigger bodies, and it's blown my mind. And I've tested it now on a new whip, and it worked perfectly. So I'm excited about that. So what are you working on currently?
Well, we'll talk about ice dyeing in a little bit, because that's like taking up everything right now, mostly. But outside of that, in terms of knitting, a few things I'll share. One is the Dustland sweater. This is from Stephen West.
Beautiful.
And it's just a really nice textured knit. Sorry, I gotta hold it up so you can see. It's a great pattern. I had to do like a little bit of knitting math just for gauge, but that's not unusual for me. Sorry, I've just gotta get this all situated. So I'm using Brooklyn Tweed tones, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with that yarn, but it is so cool, really worth checking out. The whole concept of that yarn is like light and dark tones. So there's like, I think 13 tone pairs, like 26 colors, 13 tone pairs. And what they did is they have like a dark base and a light base, and they dye the same color on 2 different bases. And so you end up with like a really super saturated color and then like a more muted color. Anyway, you should definitely check out that yarn. The second thing I have which is just a swatch. So I'm going to try to all of my stuff over here. This is for a sweater for Mike. And this is, the pattern is Gib, I think, Gib, from Andrea Mowry. So it's just a textured sweater. And this yarn is a new yarn from Brooklyn Tweed. It's called Imbue. And it is a 5-ply merino yarn. And it's really, really, really soft and squishy. So really excited to work with this. So those are the two that I have. I have one more like long-standing whip that I can show that I brought out that you reminded me of a few minutes before the podcast. And
I thought it was done.
It's not done. It's not done. And it's real insane. So
I love it. I'm excited for you to finish this.
Yeah, this is called Dotted Rays, and I'm doing the speckled fade version. So yeah, this is Leon Alexander yarn, which is no longer being produced. That yarn company is actually, the dyer's not dyeing the yarn anymore. So it's a good proof point that when you're at festivals and you see yarn that you like, you should just buy
the yarn. Buy the yarn.
Buy the yarn. So that's what
I'm a big supporter of that.
Yeah. What do you have going on over your way?
Well, I wanted to talk about my most recent finish,
yes,
which is so exciting. And I am so in love. And it's the Toni Cardigan. I had to think about the name for a second. It's the Toni Cardigan from Cocoknits. And I knit it fully out of scraps because I'm a scrappy girl. And it's like a free sweater quantity in your stash. And I think everybody should get on this. Knit with scraps, please. The only thing that wasn't a scrap was, this was 3 full skeins of this yarn, but it's like sitting in my stash with 3 skeins of worsted weight yarn. What the heck are you going to do with that? You're going to add it to scraps to make a sweater. But my favorite part of this whole sweater, there were different options for your button band, which are knit at the same time, that you're knitting the body, so you don't have to pick up any stitches. And I chose the ribbed one. There was also a garter one. And then the pockets, I chose to do the long ribbing, and the pocket is incorporated into the ribbing.
I love that. That looks really good.
The cardigan has buttons and instructions for buttons, but I left the buttons off because I wanted an open front cardigan. But I knit this for my Alaska trip that I just went on, and the weather lied, and it was never really cool enough to wear it. But I wore it to dinner one night and sweat to death. It is warm. I've got like mohair and stuff in there. I was dying.
Yeah.
And then I started a new project. I love this bag. I love this bag. My friend made it for me custom. She's got a business that she makes like little yarn bowls and like key baskets and stuff. But she made me this big honkin' bag. But this, I know, I started the color work on the sleeve. So
good.
I know, I'm so excited about this sweater. And this is the one that I tested my theories on with gauge or ease, additional ease. But this is the Easy Bee from Caitlin Hunter.
It looks so good.
And my best friend Drew got me this yarn for my birthday, and I love it. And then I just had this kicking around in the stash, which happened to be Drew's old yarn that he sold me at one point back in like 5 years ago. But I'm done with the body, and I have started work on the first sleeve.
Oh, that's so exciting.
So this is where we're at. And my goal was to finish this weekend, but I've just been zoning out watching TV and not really giving my fingers a break, I guess.
Same. Listen, that's the other thing about like Year of Cozy is like if you just need to sit on the couch and watch some bad reality television or just like stare at the wall or like go down like a YouTube rabbit hole, those are all things that are like completely acceptable.
There's been a lot of Instagram reel rabbit holes in my life recently, and I don't know why. I just get sucked in and it's like an hour's gone by. I'm like, I am wasting time doing this. But I mean, if you're going to waste time into it, just make sure you have a candle lit. That's it.
Yeah.
Make it cozy.
Listen, it doesn't, this is the other thing I want to say. And of course, I'm going to get like fired up about this, but we don't always need to be productive. So that's like one thing I'm just sharing with everybody I know. I'm sharing it with you, Cassie, and the whole like world that might be watching this is like, you don't always have to be doing something. You can if you want to, but I don't know. If you're like me, I always feel like I have to be like getting stuff done, moving things forward, accomplishing stuff, getting stuff around the house done, getting stuff for work done. It's a lot, like it's okay just to kind of take a break and, watch paint dry, enjoy the outdoors, listen to some music, like, just hang out.
Yeah. And I think, before COVID, that was where we were as a society. The harder you worked, the more, like we glamorized being burnt out and tired. And I'm over it. I'm so over corporate work culture these days.
Grind culture. It can like totally suck it.
It can. I'm done with it. I have taken some me time. I have just slowed down. My coworker actually has this tiny little turtle on her desk, and it sits right in front of her monitor, and it's her reminder to slow down.
Cute.
And I think of it all the time. Every time I'm like trucking through some stuff, I'm like, oh, Steph's turtle. I gotta. But like yesterday, let's segue into ice dyeing for a second.
Okay.
I put ice and dye on a t-shirt, and I stood in the kitchen for half hour, 45 minutes, and just like peeking at it and looking at it and watching the ice melt in the grates. And I couldn't leave it. I was just staring at it, like watching paint dry or watching the grass grow. I was watching ice melt, and it was good for me. It worked out.
Good.
So tell me about your ice dyeing. I need to know everything.
Yeah. Well, gosh, if you all have been following me on social media, you've been seeing my obsession over the last, I guess it's not even been 10 days. It was like last weekend. So I have wanted to ice dye for a long time. I've been seeing people do it. I was telling Cassie the other day, I think for me, like one of the things that's always a barrier when it comes to stuff like this, like starting like a new project or not a new project, but like a new craft, is like the setup work. So I finally bit the bullet last weekend, and I got some supplies from the art supply store and from Target and Dick's Sporting Goods, which is where I'm getting my dyeable items now. And got all the materials together and started ice dyeing. And so for those of you who don't know like kind of the brief, summary is like you're taking an item, a garment or a bag or something, and you are laying ice on top of it and then dye on top of the ice. And as the ice melts, it kind of creates these really interesting patterns on your garment. So I've been doing sweatshirts. Cassie's been doing some garments, but also some random stuff. Like she did a canvas bag, but I brought them so I could show. I have 4.
That escalated quickly.
I know I went a little crazy. It's all right. Like those people who know me know that this is like actually very like typical Drew behavior. Okay, so this is the first one I did.
And that's a damn good first shot at something that you have no idea about.
I would say so, right? Like
A+.
This turned out super cool. So oranges and greens on that one. And then this one, so I've had like a couple fails, but I call them happy accidents because they still turned out cool. So this is my second one. This was meant to be like space theme with like purple and black. but the purple and black like washed out. So there wasn't a ton, like I had like a darker purple. But I still
Who
really
cares?
like
Look at it.
how it turned out. It's pretty cool. So there's that one. And then I have two more. So this one was supposed to be hot pink and turquoise, and it kind of is, but it faded out a little bit. And I also had some black on the center in this one, and it kind of faded out. But I still really like it. This is like kind of like watercolors looking to me. So, okay. And then one last one. This one was the wildest, I think. So I wanted to do one for my partner, Mike, and he's like a big earth tones guy. And so this did not turn out how I expected.
But I love it.
So it turned out kind of wild.
Like I wasn't expecting any purple in that based on what you put on there.
No, well, there isn't any purple in it. It's
like eggplanty brown.
It's what happened with the brown. So I had brown and I also had some dark greens, and they kind of just like basically like all meshed together and created this like really muddy kind of brown, purple, green situation. So
That's
yeah,
part of the fun too.
Yeah, it's
you don't know what you're gonna get.
It's so fun, and I think it's just the other thing that I am trying to challenge myself on, besides the productive thing, and this is like another thing that goes along with Year of Cozy, is just like not being so neurotic about the outcome of things that are supposed to be fun. So like ice dyeing, this is actually like a really good practice for somebody like me, because I'm so like white knuckling everything in life as like a default. That's just how my brain works. It's fun to like start with a concept and then just like turn it over, because like what you find with ice dyeing is like you have an idea of what you want to make and you set it up, but then like once you set it up, you have to just kind of like at that point
the
turn
universe
it over.
Takes the wheel.
Yeah, and so who knows what you might end up with. Like this again, this was not the goal, but I love it. Like I think it's super cool. I think I shared some photos of this with Mike, and he thought it was cool. So he's either being really nice, which could totally be true, or he actually likes it. But in any case, it's been fun. And the last thing I'll say is people have been so supportive and interested and curious. So I love that. I love just sharing about how to do it and demystifying it, because it's really not hard. Like anybody can do it. So
yeah, anybody can do it. It is the easiest thing. It's such a free craft, and
it's really fun.
You just like I'll find myself like with my little jars of dye, like, okay, this is a good color combo. And like yesterday I took a wet paper towel and I sprinkled some dye on it to see how they would act, because some of the dyes split and you have like multiple colors to make one color, and you get speckles of those other colors that are in the dye. And so it's really cool to see how they behave a little bit before you're just throwing it on there.
Yeah.
But even then, the universe has it. That's all I've got to say. You have no idea what that's going to look like when it's done. You have an idea, but I just took a shirt off this morning and threw it in the washer from dyeing, and there's colors on there that I didn't even put on there. They just melted and blended together, and I ended up with blue on my shirt. I had no blue there. So it's fun. It's a wild ride.
Yeah. Let's see. So talk about your stuff that you're doing.
Well, I started out, you started it, and then I was like, okay, well, I want to do that now. Of course. So
this is what happens with us, which I actually kind of love. It's like we have like little, like we ping pong. So it's good.
That's how we end up knitting the same things and whatever.
Yeah.
It's what friends do. But I had a fringe porter bin in cream, and I had sprinkled so much coffee on that over the years, because knitting goes with coffee and coffee goes with knitting, and they sometimes mix. And so instead of just washing it, I was like, well, why not dye it, right? And so I ice dyed, And green was mainly my like big main color that I wanted to hit. But I had a spot kind of like this, like up here. And this ended up just being all a low point. So it all became the green, but I used 2 different greens to get some variations in there. And I am so happy with how this turned out. Like, it's just spectacular. And that was my very, very first project that I went full in. I was like, yeah, we're Porter bin. Why not? Let's throw it in there. So the worst part about ice dyeing, and I'm just going to say it, is the waiting.
Yeah, it's hard.
You're all like, did you wait 24 hours? Hell no, I didn't wait 24 hours.
Listen, okay.
Look.
I know. Well, sidebar. So 2 things. One is I learned my hard lesson. So I have my happy accidents, but those were like not the intention. So I'm sharing the wisdom. But then the other thing that I told Cassie about is just to give like a product plug, a company plug. Like, I had some questions about my process. So again, this is like typical Drew. I like composed an email that like clearly outlined like all of my steps that I was taking, because I'm a lunatic. And I sent them to the company and I'm like, okay, I'm having some problems. Like, my dark colors are washing away. Like, what am I doing wrong? This lovely woman named Carmen emails me back within 5 minutes, and then so she's like sends me an email with like answers to my questions, and then she also calls me on the phone and leaves me the sweetest voicemail and asks me to call her back so we can talk about ice dyeing, and she can give me like a few more pointers. So nice. And so this is Dharma Trading Company. If you need dyes or like dye advice, amazing. They have amazing colors. They have all the supplies you need. They've got dyeable stuff, so you can buy like canvas bags and t-shirts and sweatshirts and anything that you want to dye on. And they're just great. So
shout out to Carmen. Yay, Carmen.
I love you. She even sent me photos of like some of her stuff she made, because she ice dyes as well, and it was really cool. I was like, Carmen, you're awesome.
I love when crafters nerd out together, like, oh, look at mine. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. So totally. What do you have on your plans next craft wise? Do you have a project in the hopper knitting wise? What's the deal? Tell me the tea.
Yeah, I have several knitting projects. So I want to finish, it's all sweaters though. So Dustland, which I showed, then I want to make the Gib, which is the orange one for Mike. Mm-hmm. Then I have 3 that I need to finish beyond that. So it's going to takes me through most of 2022, but the 3 that I need to finish are my Norman Dale sweater, which is by Nora Gone, cardigan, really beautiful, has like mosaic color work in it. My painting brick sweater, which is essentially like 80% of the way done. It just needs sleeves. And then my Glenmore, which also just needs sleeves. So sweaters all the time.
One sleeve.
Yeah. What about you?
Sleeve. Well, I have loaded my bag with my next project. I am making the citrine sweater by Emily Green. And I went through the pattern, I circled my size and everything the whole way. And now that I've made EZV, I decided I'm going to make another size up now that I have calculated my equation. And that happens to be the largest size. And I'm like, oh, that's not a very, if you're going to use that equation, it kind of comes in a little hairy. Sometimes you end up with a bigger size than you think you're going in for. And let me explain that. So say a thin bodied designer, they have 8 inches of ease, positive ease in their sweater. And that's what they put in the pattern. This pattern is knit with 8 inches of positive ease. Well, that's 8 inches of positive ease on that body. So percentage wise to body, you're getting so many extra inches per inch of body, right? When you translate that to a bigger body, you're getting much less inches per inch of body. And so what I have done is I've calculated out kind of, I'm a little bit of a math nerd. I work in accounting. And so I took whatever their measurement was, because they generally put, this is a 30-inch bust and I knit the 38. So then you can calculate how many like 0.0 blah, 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 blah per inch. And then you can use that math to translate it to your own size. So for the Easy V sweater, it was suggested 8 inches of positive ease. So I took Caitlin Hunter's bust measurement based on what she knitted, found that number, and then multiplied that number by, you know, where I'm going. And I ended up knitting a sweater with 12 inches of ease as opposed to 8 to give me that roomier look so I get the same look. And I feel like when you look at sweater projects on bigger bodies, you definitely notice that there's a difference in the fit. And some sweaters, I'm like, I don't really want to knit that for myself because I don't think, I mean, not that anybody's project looks, you know, wrong or bad or anything like that. It's just not exactly the look that the designer posted to begin with, the way it should fit. And so tried it with Easy V, and I am so happy with the way it fits, and it looks more like the, you know, initial project photo. So I'm going to use that on citrine. I'm going to try to start that as soon as I'm done with the second sleeve on this. And then my other project I want to start is I don't know. And but I want to use these 3 skeins of Spincycle dyed in the wool.
Ooh.
Yeah, they were the custom color from Starlight for the Rose City Yarn Crawl this year. And I think it's called Redwood or Woodstock. But I'm looking for a colorwork yoke sweater pattern in sport to use these with, maybe like an aqua type color to pull maybe that out with the green. I think that would look really cool. So if you have anything, let me know. But that's where my knitting journey is taking me right now, and I'm enjoying it. Light a candle, knit a little bit, have some tea.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah. So that's where we're at today. Tomorrow might be another story. I'll find something else to knit and
I haven't
throw all my
even been
plans out.
knitting. It's been bad. I haven't even been knitting this last week because of all the ice dying.
Yeah, it's definitely taken a little time out of my schedule too.
And it's like 90 degrees outside and I'm like making sweatshirts.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a cool craft to do. You're dealing with ice. Come on.
I know. This one is so wild. I'm so obsessed with it. It's like
I
one
love
of
it.
those like love-hate things. Not
It's
hate.
like a rusted rainbow kind of vibe.
I know. That's what I thought. It's like moody autumn rainbow.
It's very your vibe. I hope Mike really loves it. You'll be able to tell how much he wears it.
Yeah.
And if he's not wearing it, take it back.
Yeah, right. I could. Well, we're the same size in this sweatshirt, but I have like all these other ideas of things that I want to make. Like once I have some more colors coming, so it's bad. And I was telling Cassie, I have like all these like wacky ideas. Like I want to do like Converse shoes. I want to do like a white jean jacket. I want to dye it. So I need to get some more practice in first before taking on some of those like more not risky, but just, you know,
expensive.
Yeah. And I have to find a way. I'm gonna, like I was telling you, Cassie, like I'm gonna try selling some of these things just primarily because I want to continue to create, but I can't like have 100 hoodies. I mean, I could, but I would never wear all of them. So we'll see how that goes.
And I'm going to be dyeing some project bags. That's going to be like little project totes. I can always use those. And so it's a good, you know, I only need so many shirts and jackets and shoes and whatever. So, but I'm totally 100% on with the Converse shoes. I can't wait to see how those turn out. And I hope it's soon.
I hope
selfish.
So too.
Do it now.
Yeah. Well, I have, I think I might, so coming in my, package of like next colors, I have like the true rainbow, in addition to some other colors. So I think I'm going to try to do the rainbow, like an actual rainbow kind of motif on the shoes, but we'll see.
I love it.
But yeah, I'm excited. I think this afternoon I'm going to do like a Southwestern inspired one with turquoise and deep orange and golden brown. I don't know. The only thing I will say is like I'm a little nervous now just because I feel like that last one that I made with Mike's was like, I think it was, I like how it turned out, but I think the result is because there were so many colors. So I'm trying to kind of dial it back a little bit to fewer colors, like 2 or 3.
I need to do the
I think I
same.
had like 5 or something. And not so many dark colors, because that's the other thing that I think people don't realize, and I didn't even really realize, is like something like a brown or like a dark green or a black. It's comprised of, the powder is comprised of like all kinds of like individual colors. So when it hits the ice, it turns into weird things can happen, like all that kind of plum color in that sweater or that sweatshirt is the result of the browns and the greens kind of merging together. So we'll see. It's so fun though. I just like a little giddy. And then the other thing I'll say for anybody who's interested in this is like, it's just like knitting, where there's all these different methods. Like people have different ways of doing it. People are doing tie-dye, people are doing geodes, they're doing incline dyeing. I mean, it's just like,
it's another rabbit hole to fall down.
Yeah, there's so much
go online, like cool stuff, just watch the explore. Videos.
Yes, do it
for sure.
Well, do you want to maybe wrap up with some like some final words for folks?
Our final thoughts.
Final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Go knit about it. Light a candle. Drink some tea. That's my only thing I'm wrapping this up with. Go do something selfish.
I love that.
Selfish self-care.
I will wrap up with my mantra, which I learned from somebody when I was in my early 20s, and it continues to be my mantra. And it is gentle with self, gentle with others. And those are my words for you. So be good to yourself and be good to those who are around you, and just be gentle with each other. It's a hard time right now. So
yes, I love that. I absolutely love those words. You've told me many times those words, and it really speaks to me. It's wonderful. So that's all we've got.
That's all we've got. Episode 1 in the books. Boop, 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 boop. So
stay tuned. We'll be back.
Who knows what will come? Okay,
we've
bye.
got lots of projects. Bye. Yeah.